We're live? Okay, we'll call the public hearing to order. And it's consideration of development agreement with Twin Rivers Park Limited to permit a maximum 14-unit land lease community at Cook Drive, Highway 3. And are you satisfied that this is properly before us, Mr. Lamy?
Yes, Mr. Ward, I've reviewed the documentation.
Okay. Overview by the planner?
Yeah, so development agreements to permit 14-unit land lease community. We've gone through all the necessary review and we've had a chance to look at the development agreement a little while ago. And there's wasn't any issues with the servicing or anything of that nature, so I think we're good to proceed.
Okay. Anyone questions at this point?
No question.
Yes.
Has there been any opposition?
No. There was some residents that we talked to that were kind of worried about what might happen with a potential sale and that, but it wasn't anything to do with the planning matters necessarily. So this is basically just the fewer tenants that I talked to, they were just curious what was happening, if there was any changes, and it's just recognizing what's there. So they were happy with that summary.
Okay. Is there a presentation by the developer, or does the developer wish to say anything?
I don't believe they're planning to be in attendance. No.
Okay.
Sounds like it's pretty much a rubber stamp, isn't it?
Well, the comments from the public, is there anyone from the public wishes to speak to the issue? There's not, appear to be. Okay, it's time for council to make a decision.
I'll move that we give first reading to enter into development agreement with Twin Rivers Park.
Seconder?
Second.
I don't think it's first.
Oh, we don't even need a motion.
No, you need a motion to enter.
Oh, a motion to enter into the agreement.
Oh, okay, sorry. Option one.
Option, seconded, moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. No further business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Seconder? Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, unless you want a break, and I don't think you need one, pretty short. We'll move into council, so we'll call the meeting to order. And I believe Tina has something she'd like to share with us before we get started.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes at the top of the agenda.
Just lucky you remember.
Thank you. So everybody is aware that today, May 16th, is Moose Hide Campaign Day. And I have actually for each of you a Moose Hide pin. Sherbrooke Lake Camp actually gave them to me. And Jennifer so wonderfully provided also, because she had ordered some and did the promotion for the municipal staff as well as public. So Jennifer has provided also the vegan option for councillors that would prefer the other option.
No worlds are crazy.
I think we all eat. We all eat moose meat.
It's important to recognize. The Moose Hide campaign started 10 years ago as an Indigenous-led movement to engage men and boys in ending violence towards women and children. It has grown into a nationwide movement of Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians from local communities, schools, colleges and universities, governments, and many other organizations, all committed to taking action to end this violence. People of all ages, genders, and backgrounds are invited to take part by learning about the initiative at moosehidecampaign.ca and wearing a moose hide pin. So
Be
just
happy
quiet
to
the
do this one.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe we'll just go like this. Can I have the other ones? Certainly. Thank you as an option. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
So where do you wear it?
may I ask, do we have a new staff member
Which
or
ones are the
a?
real ones, which ones are the big ones?
No, I'm a
These are
co-op.
the big ones.
Pardon me?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
a co-op student.
Or you're a co-op student?
Yeah, she was introduced last week.
You might not have been
So
here.
I think Council Church on vacation.
Yes, okay.
I think there's enough that you can have one soon, yeah.
Yes, Sam, you can.
What?
So they're different ones, or?
One of them's big and one of them's real moose hide.
The softer, lighter colored ones are real, and the other ones are beef.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
I just have one.
I just have one.
Well, that's all I wanted was the real one. Whatever.
You got the real one there.
That's the real one?
Hang yourself.
Okay. The first item is the approval of the agenda and order of business, and I have, we have to add two things to the in-camera session, accessibility contract and legal advice. And other than that, I don't have any changes.
I want to add one item. I'd like to get an update on sidewalks if I could.
Okay.
Not future sidewalks.
The current ones, yeah.
The
Current Chester
the
Road.
long-suffering one,
Yeah.
Should we talk about meeting with the Remo committee, or has that been resolved?
I'm working on trying to resolve it to have
Trying to find a date.
the meeting on the 30th. With our council meeting on the 30th. But it would be, instead of the whole committee, it would be the chair and two staff members. So if that's okay with council, instead of the whole committee,
Yeah.
then we would
Anyway,
work on
we're just
coordinating that.
trying to confirm the date.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we were moving along.
Yeah. Anything else? Somebody want to move that we approve the agenda as amended?
Oh,
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Public input, I'm unaware of any.
There is one person. Oh, yeah, there's.
Oh, nobody mentioned it to me, that's all.
Sorry, I forgot, because Pam sent it to me this morning, but I believe there's one member of the public who had asked her to speak.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Amber Ketty.
Come on up.
Oh, that's so we can hear you good.
So where do I just address you?
Yeah, just kind of come up here and have a seat.
I've never done this. This is my first council meeting.
Oh, you'll be all right.
That's all right. We can have
Yeah,
some more later.
I'm gonna tell you, it feels a little awkward. Just sit here or?
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I'm here today is, well, a couple things. Unfortunately, one of them involves Andre, and it's extremely uncomfortable to talk about it in front of him. But I guess the bigger thing is, I was going through the old agendas and I was trying to figure out the meetings where you guys had discussed the deal that was signed with the federal government to increase funding for planning. Was that something that would have went through the council?
Yes.
So was that, because it wasn't brought to the public's attention, like I've been to a few public information meetings recently where I had actually made a couple comments about some of this increased density, the need for it, like a top-down need for it, and nobody kind of mentioned, well, actually, you know, there is a drive from like the federal government, and we're in talks to like plan to receive money from the government to increase density. I guess the thing for me is with the increased density, we do need the housing, obviously. Like I've been reading articles lately that say that the housing issue is akin to like the Halifax explosion, where it's like a crisis. It's so urgent, we need it. But the problem is we're already behind. We're already behind like 17,500 units in the province as of November 2023. So we're already at a shortage. And we continue to bring people, newcomers, to the province. And I'm sorry, I know this is it's a delicate subject, but you can't address supply without also addressing demand. And as long as demand outpaces supply, which by everything I've read, even with all of our developments, it's going to outpace supply for like years to come. One article I read in the news, and if you read it in the news, you know it's probably been watered down, is that by I think it was within 10 years, we have a shortage of something like 81,000 units. And of course, that's not in Chester, in our village, or in our surrounding area. But I guess as a citizen, it feels like all the cards are stacked against you. Because even if we agree, which we're obviously going to, or maybe it's even already been agreed to your development, we have to agree to that, right? We can't not agree to it because we need the housing, right? But it feels that there's like a crisis has been created. Somebody out there who knows more about planning and housing should have kind of seen this coming. And now you've put the people in a place, not you, but the governments have put the people in a place where, you know, we can't really make an argument to preserve the way of life that we enjoy so much here in Chester. I lived in Toronto for like 22 years, and it's just moving here, it's basically like a slice of heaven. It's unbelievable. The quality of life that people have in Nova Scotia is incredible. And it's not that I don't agree other people should be able to enjoy in that, but I think it has to be responsible. So my fear is that by the council making this deal with the federal government, who's obviously committed to continued, you know, newcomers, we're kind of like saying that we agree with that, you know? I don't know what the answer is, but it's a major concern because, you know, I'd be willing to maybe sacrifice the quality of my life by having, and it's, you know, having multi-unit housing beside your house, it does decrease the quality of your life. You know, it can, right? And there could be other issues here, water, septic, all that kind of stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is I have a lot of concerns. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I tried to write something out, but it's like this, like a puzzle where you just go to this piece and then this piece and this piece, and there's like no solution. And it doesn't feel good to like sacrifice the quality of your life when you're not getting a good solution. Like if it was like, hey, we're gonna build this, and then, you know, I know people that live here that need places to live. I want them to have a good place to live. But to know that that might be priced out of their range, or it might not provide the kind of housing that they need to have a family, it just doesn't feel like a good solution, you know? So I just hope that you guys are considering that when you're approving.
Yeah, we haven't approved growth. What we've done was accept funding from the federal government
Right.
to address the issues that will cause us.
Right.
So it's like, how do we deal with that through land use policy? How do we deal with that through infrastructure requirements? How do we deal with that through, do we require additional staffing to be able to cope with that growth?
Right.
And do we have enough parks? No, all of those things.
Right.
So that's what we took the money for, was
Right,
to
right,
help
yeah.
us to address the concerns that growth will bring to us.
Right.
It wasn't that we said we want the growth, it's that we know it's coming.
Right.
How do we deal with it? And that's why we took the money.
I feel like one of the ways we should be dealing with it is demanding that there's more responsible immigration. And that's the population growth that's coming from immigration. We had like negative, I think, population growth from births and deaths.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the buck should stop with us because we are the ones living in the communities that have to live with the consequences. And the
Immigration is
consequences are
outside of our
severe.
jurisdiction. That's our problem.
I know.
Once they determine that they're going to do it,
Right.
we have to figure out, okay, how do we as Chester deal with that?
Right. And if we didn't accept the money to increase like the potential for density, where would that leave us?
It would leave us where we had no idea precisely how to deal with it when it took place anyway.
Right. But the thing is, if there's no housing, then
But the money is not for us to build housing. The money is
No,
for
I know,
us to
I know.
address the concerns.
But I'm just saying, like, if we just flat out said, like, no, we're not interested. We're living a good way of life here. We're not interested in helping you to the point where we can't help, you know? Like, we can't even make a dent. That's the problem. There's no dent to be made.
If they're increasing the density of the country,
Right.
we can't stop them from doing that. All
Right.
we can do is address it when it happens in our community.
Right, but my point is this, if there's no density, people can't live here, and they're gonna have to figure out something else, right? If everybody just keeps co-signing it and saying, hey, we'll accommodate you, we'll change our way of life for you.
Well, they can start building houses, but we don't have the infrastructure to support it, that's all. Or the
Right.
staffing to support it. We need to know what's gonna happen and how to address it.
Right,
I'm not speaking to what I had proposed or through with my other company, but in general, some of us have a good way of life. You pointed that out. But the problem, what we're trying to, I think any kind of housing policy tries to address, is that not everybody does.
Right,
There are people in our communities that are like living in their cars
right,
or renting a basement apartment with a family of 5 and they're in 1 bedroom.
yeah,
And so not everybody has the wonderful quality of life that you enjoy.
right,
And so these sort of policies address that. And so, you know, I think part of any housing strategy, yes, it's going to, you know, you're bringing more people into a community, it's going to affect the neighbors, but people also have to have some compassion for people that aren't as fortunate as those that are already in place. And that's why, as a government or any level of government, that's what we strive to do. And so those people have to go somewhere. They are here right now. They're like sleeping in the woods or in their cars or on somebody's couch. And it's not fair for us to say, well, the people that already have houses don't want any more people and they'll go somewhere else. There's nowhere to go.
right. So that is, I think, I didn't want to make it sound like, you know, I have a good way of life and I don't want the people that live in tents. I want those people to have what I have. That's the point, because that creates a good society, right? I want those people to have good housing. But my point is, and I know you don't control immigration or population growth, but my point is this, is that we will not be able to even achieve what we're trying to achieve if we don't address the demand side of things. The people living in cars can't afford $3,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, you know? So I get it's like a solution with no problem. I'm not saying I don't want people to have good places to live. I want us to have, like, you know, nice families and people that can live here and enjoy their lives the way I do. But when I mention the neighbors and, you know, increased density reduces the quality of life, I just mean that as you start to build, it does affect other things like healthcare.
We're trying to address, that's part of what we're doing, is how do we preserve our quality of life?
Right.
And address this issue all at the same time.
Right.
Ray, you have something you want to get?
Yeah, so I just want to say housing and homelessness and all of those issues that surround that are complex problems. So they have complex, they create a number of complex issues. They're not, it's not one thing that causes them. So demographic shifts and aging populations and our economics, those are all factors that contribute. And what happens if we don't deal with it is the housing crisis that we're seeing. And I think we need to respond to it somehow, so.
Right. But I just want to be clear that the housing crisis we're seeing is because of population growth, bringing people from outside of Canada to Canada. So that's the RBC, like they've said that, the big banks have said it, everybody's acknowledging it. And I know you can't address it. I'm just saying by now dealing with the federal government who's still committed to that, it seems futile to me, but I can see that it's, you know, gonna fall on deaf ears.
Jerry?
So you're against immigration is what you're saying?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, of course, obviously. Why would I want more people when there's people that don't have a place to live? Would you want that? Why would you want more people when people don't have a place to live?
I just asked a question, you're against.
Well, I'm asking you a question.
Well, I'm not here to answer to you right now in this forum. I want you to have your say. My
Right.
question to you is, you're against immigration. And that's all I
Yes,
need
but
to
I'm
know.
not against immigrants. I'm not against, if you're trying to imply that I'm against, like, a certain type of people. I'm against more people being brought to a place that's already past its limit, its capacity.
We have a
I
housing
think that's common sense,
We have a housing
personally.
shortage, I think we recognize that.
Right,
And part of what we're trying to do is have a process where we recognize it and
Right.
plan for it. Not put our heads in the sand and say, there's not going to be any more immigration. We know there is going to be.
right, but why is there going to be when people are suffering already?
Well, that's a different issue. We are.
But it's a big issue. So,
Yeah, but you can't, when you say you're against immigration, that's a totally bigger topic.
it's not, it's a population, it's a supply and demand. Don't try to like politicize this. This is not about like immigrants or people from other country. It's about population, demand, supply and demand. Everybody understands that. You know, more demand than supply, it's not gonna work. And so we're gonna be, you know, doing these developments and people don't want the developments. The people I speak to don't want these developments. So, you know, obviously we're not gonna be able to have our voice heard because we have, like, the house is on fire and we're trying to put it out with a teaspoon, you know, and nobody's saying, hey, let's stop creating fires, right? It's like, let's keep building them and
and keep trying to put them out with a teaspoon. I mean, I don't know, that's just my opinion, and I know a lot of people don't agree with it. And, you know, not a lot of people here don't agree with it. But I appreciate your time. I know I've taken more time than was allotted to me.
Tina?
It's okay, it's okay. Two things, I don't think we caught your civic number when you sat down, because we do that in public
Yeah.
record, so you can indicate that when you want. And also two, just a question, have you, you don't have to tell me or the group here the response, but I assume you've reached out to your provincial and federal representatives?
Yes, I'm
Because
going.
you were specifically talking about
Right,
immigration.
yeah, I am. I'm gonna reach out to Danielle. The problem is so it feels pointless because her government has said, like as recently as, I think it was August 2023, that they're committed to 25,000 newcomers every year. So it feels like, why even try having your voice heard? They're already committed to it. Like, whatever I say is, do you know what I mean? And the federal government is obviously committed, like Rick Perkins sent out a newsletter saying, you know, they're gonna penalize municipalities that don't build if the Conservatives get into power. So I already know his stance on it. I guess it feels like this level would be the level where you might be able to have your voice heard.
We might be able to have the discussion, but the reason we're doing the work we are doing is because those two levels of government have told us population's increasing. We have to know how are we going to deal with it.
I understand that. It just, I wish it felt like we could get somewhere with it, you know, where we would improve the community and people would have affordable places to live. But I don't see how it's going to happen.
Well, that's why we're doing the homework that we're doing.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I live at 3870 North Street.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Thanks.
Okay, only 10 after, so we can try to do the minutes. Council, April 25th. Errors or omissions?
Motion to approve.
Seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Public hearings, sale of land at Putnam Heritage Trust. What do we need there?
Just a minute.
Approval of the minutes, yeah.
I'll move the approved minutes.
Seconder. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Proclamations and designations, Huntington Society of Canada, elimination request.
We did that twice.
Yeah, so this is just a request to recognize and raise awareness for Huntington's disease by lighting up the municipal building in blue or purple for one or more days in May for Huntington's disease awareness.
So I just want to, do we skip 4.2?
Oh, just a minute.
Public hearing, it was just minutes, and we just
Oh,
approved them.
just a minute?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so what do we want to do with the Huntington Society?
So moved.
Second.
And I assume that's to do it.
Yes, of course. Like you said.
Elimination.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Lunenburg County Accessibility Committee flag raising request. Accessibility Week, May 26th, June 1st.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Just before we move along, Church Memorial Park is scheduled for 9:15. Are y'all here already?
Yeah.
You want to come on up?
Oh, here now. Oh, here now.
Brought the big guns in.
Dan, haven't seen you in a while.
A little over a year.
Yeah.
Nice to be back.
Man, haven't changed much.
You're on the wrong end of the table, my dear.
Pardon me?
You're on the wrong end of the table.
You just
No, you saw it.
Anyway.
Floor is yours.
What's that?
Tommy wanted.
Oh, he had to find a spot.
Always room for one more.
Good morning, folks, and thanks for having us on short notice. My name's Amanda Gwynn Timothy. I've been here before. You probably get to know me now. We come today for a much different request, and unfortunately, it's become quite a critical request. So the presentation today is regarding the roof restoration project for the rink. And I'll just give you a quick overview, but before I do that, I want to acknowledge the people in our gallery today. Some very important members of our Curling Association has come to support us. We have members of the board here, Ashton Lee, it was Bill Church, our chair, Tommy Graves, our manager, and one of our latest board members, Dan McDougall. He came on around the same time I did. So we're all here today quite passionate about the requests we're bringing forward to you. And just to give folks an overview of what we are, what we represent, what the facility is, and plus the folks that may be watching at home, we represent the Board of Trustees for the Church Memorial Park rink. This is our main recreation facility in the community, in the municipality. The current facility is home to more than 12 user groups that use 2 ice surfaces and a skating rink and a curling rink. The 2 largest groups within these user groups is the Curling Association with over around 185 members. And then also we have the Chester Minor Hockey with over 180 members and growing. And the number of citizens that enter the facility throughout the year, we estimate to be in the vicinity of 10,000 people, making it one of the most, we believe, arguably one of the most used public facilities in this municipality. The Chester Curling Rink is the only rink between Lunenburg and Halifax at this current time. And then the facility has been run by a volunteer board of trustees since its inception in 1970. The rink staff is comprised of a year-round rink manager and 3 seasonal part-time employees. So with that overview, I'm going to pass it over to Bill, and he'll give you some updates on the trustees and how we operate.
Thank you, Amanda. In 2024, the board went through some changes in growth. We had some long-term volunteers retire, and we brought some new board members on, trustees. All available voting seats are filled at this time, and we believe we have a strong collection of knowledgeable and dedicated, community-minded citizens on the board. Our current board includes myself as chair, Dan McDougall as treasurer and grants, Lisa Hills our secretary, Megan Rayfuse, she does our social media and HR. Sharon Church, she's our representative from the municipality of Chester. Danielle Kelly, she does policies and procedures. Ashley Lee is on the building committee, HR committee, and heads the nomination committee when it's necessary. Amanda Gwynn Timothy is fundraising and is our insurance advisor. Vanessa Stevens, she represents minor hockey. And Tommy Graves, of course, our rink manager. We overhauled our bylaws, I guess, this year, and it was the first time these bylaws were updated since 1981. The document was presented and voted on at the AGM and was accepted. The AGM took place February 26th of 2024, and we had good representation from the public. Feasibility study, RFP was prepared and went to public tender in the fall of 2023. The board awarded DSRA Architects the job in December of 2023, and the study is expected to be completed mid-June. They told us June, but then they said they may have done as early as mid-June, so we're hopeful. There is a page in your package there that shows our year end for 2023. Our general funds had a deficiency of 41,283, and our capital funds had a deficiency of 112,672, and the total deficiencies was 153,955. I guess that's where we're at. I encourage you to review that year-end statement, but when you get opportunity, and so pass it back to again.
So just a quick update on the feasibility study. That's not why we're here today. But it is moving along. It's moving along quite nicely. DSRA Architects has been actively working on it since January. They have advised that the report will consist of 3 parts. The building condition assessment is the first part. The second part was going to be this needs assessment, which is largely based on some of the community survey that they did and some of the conversations that they've had with local user groups. And then, of course, the final piece is the feasibility study, bringing it all together and presenting the final document. The first draft of the building condition assessment was received last Thursday. It's not ready for distribution yet. There's some updates to be done, but we will be sure to forward that to council as soon as we have it. Early indications suggest that the building is at a critical condition at this current time. That some very important things need to be done within the next year. DSRA executed, and this is just a little note to put in here as a comment on the feasibility study and in reference to the community survey that went out. So we did an online survey. I think it was out pretty much the whole month of February. It's at least 4 weeks that it was distributed to the community via social media, but also we got it into the spring edition of the Rex magazine with the QR code for people to go online and do the survey. So we had a response of 600 participants, which is which is close to I believe it's 5% of our population, and we're led to believe by people in this industry of doing surveys that 5% is a considerable response to an online survey. I would have expected more, but apparently that's what we can expect, and we did get it. So one response, and we peeled out one question because they hadn't analyzed all the responses at this time, but I asked them to reference this one, and that was, what percentage of your tax dollars should the municipality use towards recreation, including the maintenance and operation of a multi-use sport, recreational and cultural facility? So that was a question on the online survey, and the average answer of the sample size of 600 said that 23% of their tax dollars should go towards recreation.
I'm glad they think that.
Well, I felt it might aid in your decision making. I'd now like to pass the floor to Dan McDougall to get into the meat of the conversation here today.
Yeah, so starting with the update of the work that was done in the last year or so, in the spring of 2023, Wood Research Design, that's a firm that specializes in wood structures such as arenas, bridges, etc., provided some recommendations. In the summer of 2023, we restored and repaired 6 rafters. 4 of those were in the hockey rink, 2 in the curling rink. The cost for the work done related to the roof was a little over $600,000. You can see the categories there. The most notable one, I think, is the monitoring. We're spending a lot of money to monitor the condition of the roof. Money we'd rather spend on programming and fixing, or ideally services. More program and activity in the facility. In 22-23, so the prior year, we spent about $150,000, combination of monitoring, inspection, and design work. So really a lot of funding that's been available has been dedicated to this roof. Recent funding for the roof included $500,000 that the province of Nova Scotia provided, and I know an additional $60,000 over our annual $75,000 provided by the council. Next slide, please. So what are the board objectives? Clearly, public safety is first and foremost in our mind. And we also want to ensure that the community has confidence in the facility. We don't want decisions made about not attending the facility because they feel it's unsafe. We want uninterrupted programming. We want to avoid both short and long-term closures. Long-term, you should know that in our last board meeting, the board has passed a motion to not open the curling rink unless the necessary repairs are completed. We want to avoid that, and we want to act on that promptly. We know that families and organizations start making decisions about their participation in curling and hockey well in advance of when the ice goes in. Short-term closures, we've had some alarm conditions this winter. We want to avoid closing it for a day or two due to wind loads or snow loads. And of course, cost avoidance. We really think that that's spending that much on monitoring is just not that productive. At the end of the day, we want a third-party engineering report that confirms to the board that the roof system is safe and that it meets building codes and standards, so that the board doesn't need to put this on our board agendas. Next slide, please. So these are some estimates that we've received from the firm that did the work last construction season. So there are three rafters in the curling rink where we have received alarms during this winter. To repair just those three is around $400,000, plus contingency, equipment rentals, and some tax impact, the net tax. If the complete curling rink was repaired, the estimate we have is around $800,000. And to repair both the curling rink and the hockey rink is around $1.5 million. I think the last bullet there is important to understand. I think what we've learned is that when you repair a rafter or two at a time, it has an impact on the remaining rafters. You have one that I think that's probably more stable, and others that are less stable, and the dynamic isn't productive. And that may have been an impact on why there were alarms in the curling rink this year. Next slide, please.
I just want to add on to that too. You mentioned the alarms in the curling rink, and there was no alarms in the hockey rink this year.
That's good.
Some elbowing and tripping, but no. So the path forward, we have applied to the province's rink revitalization program. We put in the maximum request is $150,000. A combination of roof restoration and ice resurfacer battery replacement. So the batteries in our ice resurfacer are nearing the end of their useful life, and it's essential that we replace those.
You didn't get that grant yet?
No, a decision hasn't been announced. It's my understanding that the grant for this budget for this region is $185,000. So unless that changes, I guess we'll be hopeful. That's significant funding, but we'll receive. But we know there's good competition for that budget, and that we have the $500,000 we received last year was a pretty significant funding. What we're asking is for the municipality to play an active role in roof restoration. This isn't, the board are not experts in roof restorations. We're not engineers and project managers. We're spending time thinking about roofs rather than thinking about programs and services in that facility. We're asking you to take a leadership role through your staff to also provide project management or obtain the necessary third-party expertise as soon as possible to get the necessary roof repairs done this summer. And to provide the funding net of what we receive from the provincial government in that application. The objective, of course, is to have uninterrupted programs for the next ice season, where we put a challenge there to have a decision made by June 1st, because we have to line up. We hope you have to line up the necessary contractors to complete the necessary work so that we can achieve that objective. These are some quotes from after the alarms. The board had an emergency meeting And shortly afterwards, Wood Research Development came and did a one-day inspection on the rafters where there were alarms. These are some quotes from that report. I think in the second bullet, you'll see that these events were caused by wind only. There was not snow present on the roof at that time. And in red, we've highlighted, I think, what's a major flag for the board, that the combination of wind and snow could render permanent damage to the structure, leading to potential local or global collapse. And we want to avoid that at all costs.
Can you go back to the slide? I have a question for you. Second one, the received alarms along with findings confirm that the buildings in the arena, we're talking about the rink, both the hockey rink and curling rink there? What do they mean when they say the buildings in the arena need to be retrofitted?
They were monitoring both buildings, so that might even why buildings are mentioned.
But in the arena, I thought the arena was the building. I'm just confused with the language, maybe.
I think that's probably just a term that they're calling it the arena. It's two facilities. We know it's two ice surfaces. Yeah. We're monitoring in both the ice surface and the curling.
The immediate problem is curling club.
Correct.
That's it.
Anyway, that confused me then.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is the exciting slide. Think about the legacy that the folks in the community created when they first built that facility, and the many board members and staff members that have kept that facility alive and vibrant over the last number of years. What great benefit that has provided to the community and the region. For all those activities. And we think we're at a real turning point here for this facility. We're grateful that we received funding for the feasibility study. We'll soon have those results. We think it's a great opportunity to partner actively with the municipality to create long-term viability planning, to kind of reimagine the recreation and active living opportunities that can be provided in that facility year-round. We think it's a great time to do a bit of a jurisdictional scan, look at some best practices and what other communities are doing. I think it's a real great opportunity to show leadership across the province about what a facility like that can do. So we want to work closely with you for the long term. And we certainly recognize that the board has a fundraising role. You would have seen in the financial statements that there was a significant Pew Foundation funding, and we were successful again recently for another 4-year commitment from Pew. So we recognize our role, but we think so much more can be done if there's an active partnership with the municipality.
What was that commitment from the Pew Foundation?
It was a 4-year commitment of $40,000 US annually.
That's for operating or capital?
That's for both, either. Yeah.
Just the operation.
Yeah.
They've been doing that since the beginning of time.
They have, yeah. Yeah, we're grateful for that, but we have to apply. It was a detailed application. It makes it to the board at the Pew Foundation. We have reporting that we need to do to make sure we're fulfilling, what we said we'd do. So, and I think the point is we recognize that there is a role for us, but going forward as well in fundraising.
I think before we open the floor for questions, we'll just, to further support WRD's comments that was shown on that slide earlier, we did receive a letter from them this morning by request to put it in writing on their current position on the curling rink. And there's a letter which will circulate to the council later, but the last line says public occupancy during environmental loading due to wind and snow creates a strong likelihood of alarm from the health monitoring system, which is very risky during public occupancy, and such occupancy should be avoided.
So essentially, he says also, it's in my opinion, it is not recommended to risk further alarms from the system this coming winter. Thus, we recommend you adequately retrofit the primary structure elements, including upgrades to the tension rods prior to the next winter season. So the engineer has put it in black and white too, not to open. It's not recommended to open.
So, thank you. So just for clarity for me, 1.5 million is what's required.
That's the estimate we have for
Complete.
complete the roof repairs.
On both, just to
on both.
clarify. Just to do the curling rink would be 800, right?
Yeah, it's probably cheaper to do both at the same time.
That's our recommendation.
I don't know that.
Yeah, one of the, just a quick analysis of the estimates, there's about a 30% premium for mobilization and demobilization if you phase it over a number of years rather than doing it all at once.
Okay, so that's a request from the municipality. You want a decision by June the 1st. That's not far from now.
I just have a question, because you're not only asking for that, you're asking for a partnership.
Absolutely.
So just wondering if you've done any research on what other municipalities do regarding the rec facilities. I know we have very few in the province that are non-profit, but have you kind of did any?
I'll let Dan speak to that. He's done lots of research.
You know, my municipal background kicked in, and so just quickly looked at some regional facilities. I didn't reach out and contact team members for those organizations, but like the town of Lunenburg, as an example, I think the municipal government support for that facility is close to $300,000 annually. The town of Lunenburg, I think, picks up the net subsidy, but the district of Lunenburg provides $40,000 a year for that facility and study. So that's without principal and interest payments or capital costs. So they're around 300. I think the numbers for the LCLC, that's a different facility to be recognized, but I think that's about 1.2 million split between the town of Bridgewater and the district of Lunenburg, plus principal and interest payments. Region of Queens, as you would know, is it's a larger facility, but it is a nice surfaces and a weight room. That's about $1 million to $1.2 million a year as well. So there's for municipalities that own facilities, you can see the contribution. I guess what we think is we can do so much more with that facility if we had a real active partnership with the municipality. And in order to be competitive, it's pretty clear to us that a more significant role would be important as well. Great timing with the feasibility study. That's as far as the research we've done, but I think we'd like to invite you to participate in looking at what's going on out there and
Yes, Jerry.
1.5 million. Are you asking council for 1.5 million? Is that what you're asking for?
We're asking for you to lead the roof restoration project. The estimates we have are 1.5 million to do that, but we would ask that your staff team and maybe you retain other experts and make that final determination as to what the cost is.
Okay, so I want to talk about the partnership that you're an active partnership. How do you see that? You have an insight that most of us don't have. You've sat at this table, and you're sitting Halifax and the government table, and you're sitting at this table. So how do you see the active partnership working? Because I like that idea.
Yeah. So another example that I failed to identify was the Centennial Rink in Halifax, built around the same time. And they have an agreement with their municipality. They have a not-for-profit board that's responsible for operations and programming. The municipalities accepted responsibility for the facility. So the HRM funds the capital, plans, manages, leads capital improvements and repair to the facility. They also provide a small operating grant. I assume that's to achieve recreation imperatives. So that is one example of a partnership that we see that has resulted in a very vibrant facility in that community. So that would be one example. We know there's other examples out there, and we think taking a look at other examples right now is great timing because of the feasibility study.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that we're very fortunate in that a not-for-profit group and Pew Trust has helped us with this for a long time.
1970. Years.
And that we don't own it, because I know that we're fortunate in the fact that we don't own it. And yes, we do contribute annually, and we always have, but, you know, is there a better method where we're more deeply involved? Possibly. It just seems to me that trying to get down that road isn't going to happen between now and June 1st. But I just don't quite see how we'll do all that research, figure out what the best method and all that kind of stuff is. But your bigger issue seems to be, how do we start fixing the roof? You know, you know, so I'm not saying they're separate, but I think one is more imperative than the other. Yeah. That Andre and you.
I don't profess to be an expert in arena design. I did have a look through this report. It's lengthy. Most of the report focuses on quantifying the damage. So rot, stress, delamination of members, etc. The report it seems to stop short of supplying some sort of predictive element. So like it's recommending repairs, but it's not saying that how long the repairs will be good for. Will it be an improvement on the existing strength? What would be the forecasted service life, you know, should you carry out these repairs, which are, you know, in our decision making, those are important, I believe, factors. I think that the information should be obtained. You know, I think there are reports going back as far as like 2002 to the arena that suggests that the roof was actually under-designed in the beginning because it assumed a wind-swept condition, which means to lay people that wind would always take the snow away from the roof. We know now that that part of the building code has changed since the 1960s. We know that snow doesn't always go away. And in fact, snow loads have increased since the 60s. What we designed for continues to increase every year. So if we were to build a roof like this now, we would never design it, even if it were non-windswept, we would never design it to the levels that it was designed to in 1967 or 65 or whenever they started. So it's really important, I think, if we're gonna talk about maybe investing 1.5 million, we need to have some sort of prediction. You know, I think from the engineer.
What's the lifespan?
Yeah, what is this gonna give us? Is it gonna give us 5 years, 10 years, 15?
Is the feasibility study going to show us that?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask.
And we need that to be part of the process.
No, I think that would be the responsibility of Wood Research Design, and I believe they have put something in writing to that regard.
Andre, could you send me a list of questions you'd like answers to, and I'll pursue that for you?
I'll do the best I can. Again, I'm not
I understand that.
But you know, I dabble a little bit. I dabble.
I understand that you're not
Well, lifespan seems to be
a
the
wood
biggest.
engineer, but
Yeah, because I
If you
mean,
spend that money, how long is it going to last?
because you start thinking of it in terms of annual cost. Like if you're going to get 10 years and you're spending 1.5 million, okay, well then you can kind of figure out annually what that is costing you. And also you got to think forward to, okay, well, what's that replacement? I think there was a feeling when we made the last repair last year, it was like, phew, you know, good, we're going to be okay for a little while, but now we're back here. We just don't want to put $1.5 million in and then find that alarms are still going off 3 years from now or something.
I think, Andre, we were successful in eliminating the alarms in the hockey rink. But we did 4 sets of rafters in there, and we only had money to do 2 in the curling rink. And maybe doing the 2 may have caused more damage than if we'd have done none, because those 2 were rigid and the rest of the roof was still flexible.
Just to support those comments too, we requested that Wood Research separate the critical phases. So they identified those particular rafters to be most critical in the first phase. So that's why we proceeded in that order, was based on recommendations from WRD.
We didn't have the money to do the 5, we just had money to do the 2 in the curling rink. The other 3, 11, 12, 13, obviously should have been done, but we didn't have funds to do it.
I'm happy to just pose a few questions through the chair. Maybe questions we might want to know the answers to, and you guys can chat with your experts.
Please do that.
You know, and I think we're all going to want to know the answers probably.
Oh, yeah. The lifespan is, you know, if you spend 1.5, what do we get? Tina.
Thank you. So I certainly always supported Church Memorial Park, or the arena, I'm not sure. Over the last year or so here at the table, we talked about feasibility study, long-term planning, and such. And so from what I'm digesting today, obviously the time-sensitive piece is the 1.5, to be honest, right? The 1.5, not the 800, but the 1.5 for me. But more than that for me is around the results of that feasibility study, because I'm still, so clarify for me. So right now there's skating and hockey and curling and the like. What other stuff happens within the facility for recreation? And people with limited mobility need, you know, all of that. What else happens?
It's used for rentals for events. It's used in the film industry, but the bulk of the recreation is hockey and curling.
Yeah. Okay, and I really wasn't being smart by asking that. I just so I guess Dan, you had said you had done the kind of the look through the lens of across the province, and we look at our aging population, we look at our accessibility needs, and all ages. Birth to older, if you will. So for me, that feasibility study is going to be very important, and I think longer term. And I'm not poo-pooing the 1.5 at all. I mean, that's part of the discussion here. We need to know that. We need to ensure that this continues to keep the doors open, because I know that it's an important piece for people of all ages, people of my district and all districts. But the feasibility study is really key for me, because I want to know what else people are looking to see happen. If I'm sitting here as a municipal representative and I'm going to put their tax dollars into this facility, I want to make sure that I'm addressing and meeting and hopefully looking at what people want to see in the facility. So I know it's kind of just a bunch of stuff. But
just a couple comments on that, I guess. The feasibility study is close. We should have something next month, and that will hopefully give us a guideline or some sort of indication of what's next for the rink. Whether it's a retrofit renovation or a rebuild, or rebuild somewhere else. We have all kinds of questions, we know that, but that doesn't change the fact that we have immediate concerns. So whatever happens to the rink, we know that it's going to be at minimum 5 years away. Let's be real about that.
yeah.
And we have a critical concern right now that we have a wonderful curling group behind me, and I'll share this letter later, that the President, Andrew Milburn, prepared, indicating the impacts of if that curling rink does not open this fall. So it's significant. So that's important. We need to consider that. So regardless of what the feasibility study says, we have an immediate concern. But also, I'll tag onto that saying our bigger ask, we want to acknowledge that our bigger ask is that the council, the municipality step in and become an active player here. For our board, I'll speak on behalf of our board, we have reached our threshold in terms of expertise. This is huge public safety. We are concerned at the board level that we've got these reports to Andre's comments, a civil engineer sitting on our table. It's a lengthy, detailed report. We are not civil engineers. This has gone beyond our
comfort
You
zone.
need some help with
We need help.
that.
So thank you as a board, thank you to your board for certainly what you've done to date and what you will continue to do. So thank you. We all know what sitting on a board, being a volunteer, the capacity around any of the boards in which we, I get that. So I am curious, I'm very interested and intrigued, and I will be reading that correspondence from the curling club piece, because I'm interested in what ages are curling, what are the numbers, where are they coming from, and I get the fact that it's not just the users of that, but it's the economic development, and it's the domino effect, and it's all of that. I get all that.
Yeah.
I get the fact of population attraction, even though I don't know if I should say that at this council table at this meeting, because of how it started, but about population attraction and population retention. I get that, recreation facilities. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Develop.
I'm not even the sewage guy, like the Congress said. And I know that you've I guess I'll get to my point. Have you ever explored the rafter refit with steel? As opposed to what I know you're dealing with wood people here, it's a wood structure. But I don't know. If this facility's gonna have to last for another 15 years, and they come back and say the wood's gonna be, 7 year, 8 year, 10 year lifespan, would it be something to explore? I don't know.
So, sure, I think all those conversations are on the table for future discussion, for immediate response, to reflect on our.
And I understand that, but the exact, it's 1.5 million, so, I'd like to know exactly
At one time,
the impacts of it.
there was discussion about putting a set steel rafters in between the existing ones, the wooden ones, putting a steel one in each one of those spots. And the cost to do just the hockey rink, they said was around $2 million. And the cost deterred us from exploring that, and then we went on to trying to find a lesser cost way of fixing it. And that was what led us to the wood repair, the research.
So, you want to speak yet?
Steel has life expectancy, and it fatigues as well.
Everything does.
Everything does, right? But WRD does have a guarantee behind the repair of the wood. So it is there. Your questions will be answered with WRD, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, well, I think that I think the biggest question, we got to come to some conclusion. We're not going to be able to sit here and make a motion to give you the money right this second. But the biggest question is, okay, we do it. How long is it going to last?
That can be answered.
Yeah.
More than a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think we need a broader discussion. Well, we need that. That will help us determine the role we play.
Do you have those letters available for us now?
I'll leave this one here. I will email a digital copy.
No, okay, I
After the
don't need that,
meeting.
just, I want to make sure I get that.
And here's copies of the wood research
Yeah,
letter.
just give them to staff and they can copy them.
Thank you.
Gary, we'll get them to Caroline.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the work you put into this. Simple matter. Okay, maybe we should do it now. Take a 10-minute break. Well,